I wanted to explain how I create custom banners for my cards using a clip art image and pretty fonts in Photoshop Elements. The link to the blog post with the complete instructions for assembling the card is down in the description box. So I did a search for banner clip art and I found this particular image. I wanted it to be crisp so it would be easy for me to manipulate. The colors really are not an issue here because I'm going to change them anyway. The first thing to consider is what color do you want the banner to be. If you will be printing it on colored cardstock, then I find changing the color of the banner to white and the shadows and outline to various shades of gray works really nicely. So the first step is to set the foreground color to white. And we'll do that here. Click on the box. And then I happen to know the hexadecimal code for white is 6F. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then click on OK. And before I actually paint using the bucket, I want to check my settings. I've got my opacity at 100% and the tolerance is kind of high for this. If it's too high, what happens is it'll just change every color to be the white. So I'm going to dial that all the way back to 0. I really just want the tan to be the color that's affected. So there we have that. So now let's follow the same steps for the shadows. I'll link the website that I reference for the various hexadecimal codes in the description box. For this one, I want a medium gray, so I am going to use D1D0CE and click on OK, and then just hover over the shadow area and click, and you'll see it's changed both areas. And now let's do the outline. So the outline will be a little bit lighter, and I'll use the code E5, E4, E2, and click on OK. And here I want to actually bump up the tolerance. I find that if I don't bump up the tolerance here, what I'm left with are little bits of black that are still showing. So I find around 200 works well for this. So just find the area and then click on it. And now I've changed my outline to be light gray. So this looks fine, but since I'm going to be printing it on white cardstock and I want the banner to be a color that complements the image that I'm using on my card, I'm going to use the color picker to really make a custom banner. I'm going to undo all of the work I just did to get it back to the original version. And so I have already loaded my image into Photoshop Elements. So I'm going to go down to the photo bin and bring up that picture. It's a nice hydrangea. And I'm going to click on this color picker or eyedropper tool and select a color that I want for the banner. I think I'm going to go for a real light shade. So I'm just going to hover over and select a color, and you'll see I've changed the foreground color to this nice pale periwinkle color. So going back to my banner, I am going to use the paint bucket, and I want to again drop that tolerance way down and paint. Let's go back to the image and let's pick a darker color for the shadows. Remember to switch back to your color picker tool. I think this looks good, so I'll pick that. Go back to my photo bin, get my banner, and select the paint bucket. Click on my shadow area, and let's do the same with the outline. You always want to make sure you're swapping back and forth. If you accidentally click when it's on the bucket here, you can simply undo and it'll put it back to normal. So pick that, and let's find kind of a medium periwinkle. That looks good. And my bucket tool, and again bump up the tolerance, and there you have it. Now that we have the banner colors all dialed in, let's go ahead and add a greeting. You'll want to click on the text tool. The font that I have chosen is one that I downloaded, and it's called Swiss Blink Banthers Regular, and I found that the size 42 works nicely. Here's a tip for you. You're not limited to the font sizes that are available in the drop-down menu. You can actually type in whatever number you like, in this case 42, and hit enter, and your font will be that size. So we'll just pick a spot to start typing. I like this font. I think it has a nice kind of old-fashioned look to it. So I'm gonna center it sort of here. Now I really want this font to follow the curve of my banner. So I click on the Warp Text tool, and then from the drop down, I'm going to select Rise. You can adjust the bend, but I find 50% works pretty well for this particular banner. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. And I find by just pivoting it just a tiny bit makes it look a little bit better, a little more lined up. So I'm just going to tilt that a little bit. Click on OK. And I think I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm using the arrows on my keyboard to do this bit. It nudges it just a tiny bit at a time. And there you have it. I use Word to print out my card image and banner. So let me bring up Word. Since I'm using 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, it's an easy option for me. So I'm going to insert my hydrangea image. Since this is too large, I'm going to go ahead and crop it in the picture tools. So I click on the crop tool, and I am going to actually be cutting out this flower, so I'm not interested in the background at all. So I'm just going to crop it as close to the petals and the leaves as possible. I also know that I don't want this to be any taller than 4¼ inches. So I'm going to change the height, and it will automatically change the width. And that's the right size. And since I've got a lot of real estate here, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and just go ahead and make 2 of them. Might as well use the paper. And now I'm going to go do the same thing with my banner. And I just resize this by clicking on the corner and dragging. And now it's ready to print. Be sure to check my blog for the complete project, and thank you.